which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, you want to lead us in prayer?
Take a moment of silence, please, for your own intentions. Father, tonight we come into this meeting as residents of a town where we all belong. It doesn't belong to any one. It's for all of us. And I would ask you tonight, Lord, to just breathe on this place, on this town, on every single one of us, beginning with the pastor all the way down. Help us to come together with the objective of resolve, to come together with our differences, but to walk out with solutions. Let us know, Father God, that this is not a place to come against one another, but it's to build each other up and want the best for every one of our neighbors. So, Lord, we thank you. We ask our leaders to have wisdom, to have open hearts and open ears. We ask our residents, oh Lord God, to always be thoughtful of their neighbor. And we thank you. Highlands needs an awful lot. So many things that we could go on all night and pray. But Lord, I know that you're going to put everything in order. It may take a little bit longer than other places, a little bit longer than other towns. But I know, Lord God, that you got our back. You've got us covered. So, Father, I thank you tonight. And in your holy name, just let the people know, no matter who they are, who people say they are, who they think they are, that you love every single one of us the same. And there's no exception. I thank you, Lord, and help them to have a great meeting tonight. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Here.
Here.
Ryan. Present. Mayor Dahl.
Here.
First item we have is the private conversation.
Sal Alfieri.
Good
Welcome,
evening.
Sal. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. You want me to stand here?
Yeah, if you don't
Mr.
mind.
Mayor, members of the council. I'm not sure exactly what your questions will be in terms of pilots, but I'll give you a little overview as to what your options are. The pilot program, which under the statute is called long-term tax exemption law, allows a municipality under limited circumstances to enter into a private agreement with a developer to rehabilitate or reconstruct property, and to not pay normal real property taxes, but instead to enter into an agreement whereby the property owner will pay a payment in lieu of taxes to the municipality, which will be used only by the municipality for its own budget. There will not be money for the school board or the county or the other components of your tax bill. There's flexibility where you could include those other components or some of them, but typically it's the town getting the revenue under formulas that are set forth in the statute for a fixed period of time, whatever the contract in the statute allows. But you can't do that in any real estate development. You want very limited circumstances under which to do it, primarily code projects, which are all Mount Laurel type units, or redevelopment areas where areas in need of redevelopment. And I'm not sure what the borough has in terms of a redevelopment zone and not a redevelopment zone, but if you're looking to do this pilot program through your master plan and or through some other type of ordinance revision, there's a process that one would have to follow, but generally it encourages the developer to put money into the property because the tax bill will be lower than normal, and it allows them to therefore put extra money into redevelop an area that requires redevelopment. That's really the gist of the statute and the intention, and it works in the areas where they're being used pretty regularly.
Have you been involved with a lot of them, Sal?
Not lately. There's a few that we did in Lakewood years ago, but
Okay.
lately, no.
Okay. What are they typically, those ones you research?
The ones that
Length of
the
time.
ones that are most common now are COA projects.
Okay.
There's one in Howell that was done a couple of years ago. They had a 30-year contract.
So the cover year pilot?
Yeah, and the COAs are separately regulated, and it would be a function of the types of units that are being built, whether they're low, moderate income, depending on the number of units and the municipality and the need for the COA projects. There's a lot of moving parts in order for you to come to a calculation, but they can go anywhere from 10 to 50 years, depending upon many of the factors that are being considered. But I don't think you're probably looking more assume, more towards commercial redevelopment as opposed
Well,
to.
here, give you an idea of the background how this came about. We are doing a master plan with our, through the appropriate channels with our planning board. I think the subcommittee, they're gonna start bringing back suggestions to the table of the planning board. There'll be X amount of public meetings at the subcommittee level, X amount of public meetings at the planning board level, and ultimately at the council table when we vote on it, right? At the same time, there's a redevelopment plan. So we're trying to put all of our ducks in a row and thinking everything that we can to make it the most effective.
And you have a planner who's working on the,
We're with Marty Truscott from TNN.
okay, so yeah, we would work with him in order to put together a program if you're looking to do that. And I'm assuming you're looking to encourage commercial redevelopment? You're not looking to build tower projects?
I don't, me personally, I think we wanted to find out everything about it.
Right.
And then we also want to know the process, because we also have a subcommittee on the finance board working with the budget. And that's one of the things we brought up. So I guess the typical answer is this: do we go and establish a pilot program? Do we find a spot that someone's looking to do something with and then make a pilot program? Or do we, what's the right process?
You need to you have to designate an area you need redevelopment
Okay.
in order to implement the pilot. So your first step would be to locate the area and then take the steps to designate it as such. And then you can negotiate the pilots from there.
Okay.
So your first step is to find the location and then do the proper designation. And you can do that in conjunction with your planner, would be the obvious choice during the master plan review. It makes the most sense.
Sure.
That process is a little bit more entailed than what we did with the area need of regional location for the tax exemption ordinance.
Right.
This is a lot more complicated.
Right. There'll be a separate report that's required by your planner. There'll be a planning board hearing. But that could, I'm sure it can be done at the same time. It doesn't have to be a
Sounds like
separate
we can
project.
run parallel.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Sal?
Thank you.
Okay,
That's it.
if
Thank you, sir.
you need me to do anything, let me know. Thank
Yeah,
you.
if we need to bring you to a planning board or a subcommittee meeting, then obviously
That's
we'll
fine.
make sure it works in your schedule.
That's fine, thanks.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Consent agenda?
I'm gonna ask that we remove 14-220 and talk about it by itself.
With that motion, that to approve everything else with that.
Unless anyone wants at the table, anyone you wanna take off besides 14-220? Okay, everything besides R 14-220, I'll, motion to approve.
All in favor, Marinelli? Second. Second by Ms. King, Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes.
All right, resolution R 14-220.
Okay, 14-220, so I'll have the resolution in front of me, is, to my understanding, is to make it known that the Highlands, New Jersey Facebook page is not an official Highlands website or Facebook page. I know that some of the comments that we got back from some of our employees, whether they were reading on websites and on pages that they were getting fired or laid off. People called us from other states asking what was going on and things like that. I don't think this has any punitive damages in there. Is that correct, Bruce? It's not saying anyone can't speak any words. It's not saying that they can't say
Right.
anything.
Right. It's drafted similar to the restrictions that the School Ethics Commission and Code of Conduct for School Board Members places on school board members when they do, when they write a letter to the editor or something like this. They have to identify that they're talking individually, not on behalf of the public body of which they're a member.
It's like when you watch certain TV shows or things and they say the views expressed are not necessarily that of the channel or the show or whatever. That was my understanding of what this was meant to be.
My
Yeah.
only question is, I would like it in writing from Bruce, why he feels it is or is not unconstitutional. And then we can table it at this point and discuss it then.
I'll tell you right, I'll put it right now on the record, on the internet, on the thing, and I'm happy to put it in writing if you want me to do that. It doesn't prohibit speech in any manner whatsoever. So,
I'm an officer, I'm an elected officer in the community.
and you could say whatever you want.
I don't think I should have to have any disclaimer that I'm not an officer of.
No, you're not disclaiming that you're an officer. You just have to say, I'm not speaking on behalf of the borough.
I don't think I should have to do that, because I have the times, sometimes I may not be speaking on behalf of the borough, I'm speaking on behalf of the people that voted me into office.
That's the point. That's the point.
Well, why should I have to disclaim that? I think it's unconstitutional, and I think this is a travesty, and it's a mockery that we're wasting our time on this. I think it's a joke. It's a sad situation. If you don't like what you hear on Facebook, don't go on it. It's freedom.
I don't disagree. I don't read it, but I also understand
If you don't like it, don't
reasons
go
that
there.
came to it, and I never do. So I
Right, so
understand
it's
that
a
side.
waste of time, waste of fiscal responsibility, and it's a joke.
So, kind of let it go this way. I think everybody should. Kevin, you want to weigh in on it and say anything or comments? Or?
The only thing that, you have to look out for too is that what I'm just, was talking to someone at work today, and he said that he belonged to a council in another county in Ocean County, and they got in trouble because they were stating things that were not true or were heard by second people and then trying to put it on the Facebook without getting the truth first. So even though you may think it is, it may not be, and I hope you don't attach a name to the problem. And that's what happens. That's where you could get a little bit of a problem with liabilities. That's what he told me. Yep.
So-
Was that
No, hang on, we're gonna all talk at the table. Then you have, anything to,
Yeah,
sorry.
You done?
I did.
you're done? Okay. I just don't think that this is necessary. I'm a little bit concerned about even the appearance of infringing on our rights of free speech. I think that if you want to read Facebook, you can read it. If you don't want to read it, don't read it. I think most people will say if they're speaking for the town or not. I don't read it as much as I used to. I know that there was some stuff on it recently that made me unhappy, but I still don't think that we should be regulating this. I will not be voting for this.
Okay,
I actually prepared something, so I'll just read it now because I am going to vote for it because I feel that this resolution isn't a resolution that was drafted as a waste of time, but as a resolution that will save time and administration. On a typical day, our administration is dealing with 2 to 3 hours a day of calls and concerns and follow back to this unofficial page. We deal with employee issues, executive agenda issues, other statements that need further clarity. The resolution was drafted to protect the borough while allowing the same discussion to take place. This model was crafted for many other boards. The resolution was not crafted to stifle the public and take away their rights, as Councilman Card would say, and Ms. Ryan. It was drafted to keep our employees working, to show them that we believe in them, and that it's really a very negative thing that's going on out there where we try to work to rebuild Highlands. In closing, I was a little upset to read the Asbury Park Press because, as Mr. Card prides himself on communications, he did not reach out to any member up here.
Excuse
So,
me?
not about this. I think my phone did, right?
Excuse me, I sent the email to the editor of the paper, so you'd have, first of all, the proper emails to get hold of everybody. And I didn't think it was my place to reach out to you on this.
Well, if you want something to pass, I think you should talk to us.
I don't want this
Or
to not to pass.
Right.
I was flabbergasted it was even choreographed.
So,
I mean, I
It's
thank you
okay.
for owning that you put it up there.
I didn't put it up. It's a problem we're dealing with, and I don't care.
There's no
I
problem.
mean,
How's there a problem when someone's discussing an issue?
it's
You
not.
have the what you say people attack you or people are dealing with issues, wrong, right, or different. It's a negative issue. We have to deal with it. And sometimes it may not be so nice. We have to deal with it. It's not attacking. No one's personally attacking anybody. We're attacking the issues in this community. And yes, there are people on Facebook that are definitely out there in left field. There are people on other social medias, on the Herald and all other. Some of them are out there in left field. If you don't back check your information like Kevin was saying, you're being irresponsible to yourself. It's not our job to restrict freedom of speech.
I'm not.
I think
So,
I disagree with you.
I mean, so with that, I'll move
I
it.
still want it in writing.
Somebody like to second it?
Doug actually moved to, Doug moved to not do. Perfect.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to second Doug's? To not move.
I guess would that technically be a motion to table it?
Okay, whatever the technical is, it happened, I don't want to
Right,
just say it.
okay, well, we should go ahead with it.
Okay, so you offered to,
You're saying, so for clarification, you're saying let's vote on it to pass it or approve it?
Whatever's gonna happen, let's go.
Yeah, well, you could do two things. You could move it and introduce it and then have it voted down, or you could move to table it, which,
Right.
table it indefinitely just means you throw it away.
I feel table. I mean, I don't know what the only other person here that committed to a vote besides Ms. Kane and Sarah Ryan. I'll go either way. Someone puts the motion up, I'll go either way.
you're
Travis.
offering to table it, basically? Doug? the record.
Oh, let's call for a vote.
Okay,
It's
so
embarrassing ourselves if we approve.
Let's
So
start.
you're offering a motion to approve.
He's already motion to vote.
Vote on.
Is that a good motion or not?
Well,
Not
I mean, if
motion.
you,
I'll
to
offer
vote
the
on it, it
motion.
has to be moved and seconded.
Is there anybody offering?
I'll offer it.
Offered by Ms. Ham,
I'll second it.
second by Mayor Nolan. Mr. Hart,
No.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
No,
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Other resolutions?
Resolution R14-216, resolution appointing part-time recreation aide.
Okay, who's speaking of this, Tim?
Yeah, Mayor, we had an opening due to a resignation of one of our former employees, I think that went off to school. And Ms. Strail, the recreation assistant, did do advertising, and the person that's listed on the resolution is what's recommended. I have no objections.
I'll make a motion.
Offered by Ms. Ham,
I'll second that.
second by Ms. Ryan. Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes,
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Resolution R14-222, resolution approving special counsel services. Mr. Hill, you want to speak about this one?
Yes, Mayor and Council, we did put out an RFP, as was discussed, for special counsel services for Superstorm Sandy. We did receive proposals back. One of the proposals from Bathgate, Wagner, and Wolf. As discussed, they would be working for us potentially on a contingent basis. And what that would mean is we have a set dollar amount with FEMA that we anticipate, but that'll be a known figure to them. And if they're able to gain additional funding for us, as the governing body had recommended, that it would be on a contingency basis, not an upfront expenditure. We did receive one other proposal from a firm out in Arizona, but I believe they failed to do the non-collusion statement, and believe it or not, they didn't fill out the non-collusion statement. So I would recommend at this time that we do go with the firm of Bathgate.
So they didn't meet the appropriate documentation.
The other firm, I believe not. And again, doing work, and no offense to the folks out in Arizona, I'm sure they were limited in the number of staff. I'm not sure that would be the best fit for us at this point.
Okay.
The Bathgate firm and the firms that they would be hiring potentially to help them are New Jersey based and ready to go.
Okay. Anybody want to offer it?
I'll offer it.
Offered by Mr. Redmond,
I'll second it.
second by Mayor Nolan. Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes, and I just want to say for the record, I also spoke with some council at a point each with Pleasant, and they're extremely pleased with this firm.
Robert?
Yeah, it's a significant difference with their sandy
Good.
recovers.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
You want to add to the resolution?
Well, we have it on here, right? Temporary clerical help?
Yeah.
222?
Resolution R14-222,
Hiring temporary clerical help with recovery efforts. Tim, are you talking to this?
Yes. Mayor, there's a definite need as we continue to recover from our Sandy efforts. The firm that we did have in place, Arcadis, the contract did expire, and they had, rates, of course, that were in line with a lot of professional consulting firms. We felt perhaps we could reach out and get someone with experience, excuse me, that could take on that additional work. We don't know whether this would take 6 months, it could be up to a year, but we have capped it at 400 hours. We also looked internally a little bit with regards to anyone staff-wise that may have expertise that's needed. And lastly, the direct administrative costs associated with this position are associated with disaster recovery 486 Sandy, and we will be applying for 90% reimbursement on the funds expended. So if we spend $1,000, we're anticipating that we'll get $900 back for that expenditure. There's a lot of things going forward with all Sandy recovery efforts. And this will put us in a good position to continue that.
Anyone have any comments from the table? I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Nolan. I'll second it. Second by Ms. King. Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Okay, I believe there was one resolution we wanted to add on to tonight's agenda, resolution R 14-23.
Who's speaking to that, Kevin?
Tim, do you want to speak about this with regard to the house?
Yeah, we've been approached, Mayor, by a modular home firm, and we know this is going to come up as we go forward in recovery. There's a project on Snug Harbor Avenue of a modular home that's going to be put in place, but they need some staging area, similar to a request that came from a private citizen to relocate a home. So what we've done is checked with the fire department, police, construction official, anybody that needs to weigh in, and they're all satisfied that the temporary location of these structures at the lot on a temporary basis would be okay from their end. They did supply a certificate of insurance and a hold harmless to us, and I think we're going to be faced with this type of issue ongoing, and in our efforts to help residents recover, if we can accommodate, I think we should do so.
And this is coming up right now, this weekend,
Yeah.
okay, and they're going to be in,
I think the 29th.
It's the 27th to the 29th.
okay,
Yeah, 27th to the 29th.
Next,
and the rec center's parking lot,
So it's Monday to Wednesday, basically,
and
right?
they provide a certificate of insurance and,
okay,
All that's settled?
yeah, it's been run through, police, fire.
So all the documentation is there, is what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or concerns at the table?
Now, I'll read the resolution to the record.
That'd be great, please.
Whereas a resident of the Borough of Highlands requested to restore for 48 hours a modular home in the municipal lot at Bay Avenue and Central Avenue. And whereas administrator, police chief, fire chief, and construction official have approved temporary placement, and whereas the resident has provided a certificate of insurance and has agreed to identify the problem.
She knows how to read, she just can't read.
Yeah, right. I get it. Now therefore, be it resolved that the borough approves the temporary placement of a modular home storage at the aforementioned parking lot for time period October 27th through the 29th. Sorry.
Would anyone like to offer that?
I'll offer it.
Offered by Ms. Ryan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mayor Noel.
I abstain.
Moving on to ordinances, for introduction, setting up a public hearing date for December 3rd.
Can I ask a question? Is there statutory reasons we can't do this on the 5th?
Let's just.
Because there's not another meeting, that's what we want to ask. And I don't think any, I could be wrong, I don't think any of these will likely run.
Our meeting was a week later, this month.
Yeah.
And-
Okay, so that's it?
Yeah,
All right, no,
that's
fine.
kind of like,
That's fine, I don't want to do anything without you should. Okay.
Is ordinance 0-14-29, is ordinance repealing section 2-33, Highlands Declaration Commission, and assigning the functions, duties, and responsibilities of the Declaration Commission to the governing body of the Borough of Highlands.
Okay, I'll offer for that meeting to be on December 3rd.
Offered by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
On for introduction, setting up a public hearing date of December 3rd, in ordinance 0-14-30. An ordinance authorizing the private sale of certain property owned by the Borough of Highlands not required for public purposes pursuant to NJSA 48:12-13B.
This is the one lot we're all
This is
okay with, right?
lot 72,
This is
lot
not the
2.
one we had issues with.
Right, this is the one we were okay with, and I offer to continue its owners first.
Right.
I'll offer it for the meeting to be held on the 3rd of
Offered
December.
by Mayor Nolan,
I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Ryan. Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. King.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
On for introduction, setting up a public hearing date is ordinance 0-14-31, and ordinance supplementing section 4-9, to permit background checks by an entity other than for fingerprint criminal record history background checks.
This is what we talked about. It's a little wordy title, but this is to allow you an alternative besides the entity you use now. It doesn't eliminate what you use now, but you have an alternative that the borough can select as a
Yeah.
Okay, I'll offer that being to be done
Offered
on
by
the
Mary
30th.
Ellen,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Kane, Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Ms. Kane,
Yes.
Mr. Redmond,
Yes.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. On to second reading and public hearing at this time is ordinance 0-14-21. An ordinance supplementing section 7-3 of the Code of Borough Highlands to provide section 7-3.9 parking in front of driveway. Permitting homeowner or resident parking in front of the resident's driveway.
This is 14-21, correct?
No, it said
Amending fee 14-21.
21.
It's okay.
Yeah, ordinance amending section 4-2.3 fees to increase the license fee for a peddler with a vehicle to $50 per year.
Is that 14-21?
It's 14-21, it's increasing it from $10 to $50.
Right, okay.
Okay, so we're raising the peddler fees from $10 to $50.
Yes.
On a
Vehicle, a vehicle.
not on a push cart or.
Correct.
Whatever. They stay the same as 10.
We're okay now, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Anyone have any comments on the peddler license fees going up? Mr. Francie, name and address for the record, please.
Chris Francie, 36 Fifth Street. I thought we had been talking about going forward to prove that the licenses were in use the prior year before they would automatically go to the holder.
I believe that will be
No, that's another-
14-22.
That's the
That's
next
the next
ordinance, Chris.
It'll have to be done
How
separately.
about the fee, Chris? You okay with the fee going up?
I think the push carts should get a fee also, but,
There's a $10 fee.
They
in that.
do, it's just not 50.
huh?
It's a $10 fee.
Well, okay, yeah, I don't think we should, personally, I don't think we should distinguish push cart, truck, car, whatever, it should be one fee. But I'm much more concerned with what we have is, in town right now, is best pocket licenses. People
So,
get them,
can you hold your thoughts to 22?
I'm holding my thoughts.
Any other comments on 14-21 and only 14-21? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing.
On for final reading and adoption, 0-14-21, ordinance amending section 4-2.3, fees to increase the license fee for a peddler with a vehicle to $50 per year.
I will offer that.
Offered by Mary Ellen.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Kane, Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Ms. Kane.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mayor Ellen.
Yes.
On for second reading and public hearing is ordinance 0-14-22, ordinance amending section 4-2.9, number of food vendor licenses to be issued, to increase the number of food and non-food vendor licenses to be issued to 10.
And what is the current number, Carolyn, so we all know?
I think it's 6.
Okay. I'll open the public hearing. First up.
You don't want me to lose it.
I want you to lose
What I
what?
said the first time.
Okay.
At this point, I think I read it, and I don't see the provision for proving that they used it the prior year.
Okay.
I didn't see, is it in here?
It talks about being offered to people who used it the preceding year in terms of proof. We don't have any specific proof that was included in the ordinance that needs to be shown.
And what I'm suggesting is that like that could be problematic. This one, you'd like to see it in use 2 months a year, 3 months a year. Some number, something other than somebody doesn't show up in the corner one day and say, I used it.
Right.
And that would literally probably have to be a seat on an eye test, you know what I mean?
I'm sorry?
You'd probably have to just document that driving through town. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm suggesting if they took a picture, dated photo, that here I'm
Hold
in
in the
business.
newspaper.
You know, I was thinking about how Tim is going to enforce it. You know, it is problematic, but
that's a
like,
challenge, I agree. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on the number of licenses going up? Rachel, please name and address for the phone.
Rachel Stockton, attorney on Grand
For the
Tour.
record.
I have a comment on increasing the amount of licenses. Last year I was at the Vision Strategic Planning up at Henry Hudson, the culmination event where everyone came and presented their projects, all the committees met and said, this is our vision for the town. And there were beautiful streetscapes about how Highlands could look like beautiful Main Street USA. I really don't feel like putting multiple vendors on Bay Avenue is our vision for this town. You know, a potential of 10 mobile vendors up and down Bay Avenue, in my opinion, is an eyesore. The mobile vendors that I see down there are not attractive. I don't think it's bringing customers or patrons into town to go shopping. If it was a boutique or a cafe, yes, we're bringing people into town, but people don't come into town to shop off the back of the truck. The mobile vendors do not add anything to our tax base. They're contributing $50 a year to our town. They drive in the morning, they drive out. They do nothing to help improve Bay Avenue. They're not helping the landlords who need to rent their store space. They're not coming in and helping to improve the real estate on Bay Avenue by putting in a business and beautifying that area. In my opinion, they're not adding anything to the vision that we had, that I went to see last year in town. And I don't think that increasing the amount of licenses for mobile vendors is what our vision should be.
Thank you, Rachel. Scarlett, you were next.
Yeah, I just, it's a comment and question, came up at our,
Name and address, sorry.
Carlos Paulo, 62 Bradley Point Road. It came up, at an HPP meeting, regarding the issue of, if we have 6, like, they're not being used. So we would like to see, like, you know, rather than just allowing people to, hold on to them, why not use the ones we have? Like, you know, that's really just the issue that, you know, they're not
And I think
being,
that we
like, use it or lose it.
I brought that back to the table, and they'll probably comment on that tonight too.
Okay.
So they did share with, I know I heard some comments that come from the Start over here.
Kim Scorpion, 315 Epshore Drive. I want to answer the question about the vision for the town. There's a lot of things in those, that came out of those meetings that just can't happen and aren't going to happen. And I think increasing our peddlers and the mobile trucks, including the boutiques, I think it's something short-term and temporary to help this town, to bring people in, to get people walking out of their houses. And if you want to put people in these vacant storefronts, then the landlords need to fix them. Nobody's going to move into a storefront with plywood on the windows. Nobody's going to move into a storefront that hasn't been painted in 15 years. Fix the storefronts, make it a plain vanilla box, and get people in there. It's not the landlord's fault that Penelope wants a truck. Or it's not Penelope's fault. It's the landlord's. She doesn't want to move into a building that's still full of mold from 2 years ago. The town has a problem attracting businesses because it looks like shit. And frankly, I support Penelope, I shop there, and I'm happy she's in our town. I'm happy she parks by Huddy Park because it brings people down to the end of town where we have a florist, and we have a bakery, and we have a new food vendor. We have a new to-go place. It's fantastic, and I back it emphatically, and thank you for increasing the number of licenses.
Okay, thank you.
Carolyn Bouillon, 12 Miller Street. Also to address that people, they're not doing anything for the tax base, but people, these mobile vendors, they tweet out what they're doing. So people that are in Atlantic Highlands or Middletown might find out she's here. So then they come here and they shop, and then they go to the coffee shop, or then they go to Etal, or they go and get a burger at Katz's. So it's not just that the money's being spent at these little independent vendors, just they're not paying taxes, but people are not gonna, people are gonna come here and then say, oh, we're in Highlands, look at all these restaurants, let me eat here, let me get some coffee, let me do this and let me do that, let me enjoy our parks, or whatever it might be. So the draw is that people are gonna come to shop there from other places, not just from Highlands, and they're gonna use the facilities that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa Peterson, 17 Bay Street. Question for you, have you driven down Bay Avenue? Like, have you seen the amount of empty storefronts? The thing is, the vendors, like, in a boutique won't come. Have you ever been to Manhattan? Because people follow those trucks. Yeah, I mean, they have like an hour-long wait if you actually want to go get lunch at them. So to think that they're going to be somehow a hindrance is ridiculous. Like, whatever, how many buildings on Bay Avenue have been empty way before Sandy? Seriously. And before we have Melody, how long have they been empty? And this is going to distract people from coming? How about the flooding? How about that? We have to think of Broadway Street, really.
We're going to work our way back over, folks, okay?
Barbara, Nucci, 28 Shrewsbury Avenue. I I can understand why the businesses are against it. It's a very competitive world out there, and pretty much like this is their turf, so let's not embrace new business models. But I think if you start seeing in other areas of the country, this is a different business model. It's enticing for some people, it's eclectic. It allows other people to have different shopping options than to just go down to the mall or whatever. People do enjoy this type of shopping. The references made to Bay Avenue, they're obvious. We've had a vision. Just because you kick out a peddler in a truck doesn't mean you're going to get somebody in a brick and mortar business. There's other issues in town preventing a business owner from renting space in Highlands. It's not because there's a truck selling clothes that people in the community want to buy. So I just want you to be a little out of the box here and embrace a different business model and don't have everything conform to what would be a Main Street vision. There are other things going on that may help Highlands.
I just want to set the record straight. The business people, this is not about Penelope or the boutique or that type of business. There's actually pop-up stores going up all over the state right now, and these little pocket stores and whatnot. They call them 350 pop-up stores, and about fixing up the buildings and putting people in there temporarily and stuff. That's not the issue at all. The issue is we have 6 already. If we want to encourage that type of whatever, it's like, why fix the ones we have? We have 4 more. There's only 2 being used right now. Why do we need more when 4 are out there and not being utilized?
Hang on 1 second.
I'd like to comment. I'd like to
Can
comment
we
to
just
that.
can we just let Rachel go? And then we're done with this.
I'm not talking about Penelope. What I'm talking about is what our vision was for the town when we met at the strategic planning.
Which was most of the people in this room.
It was beautiful. And, I drive down many main streets going through Fairhaven, even Keyport or Red Bank. I don't see mobile vendors up and down those main streets. You want to attract people to come into our town and improve our buildings, put cute little boutiques in those buildings. If there is potentially 10 mobile vendors up and down Bay Avenue, then what are we going to do about parking? I don't even think we've thought about that. If that is lining Bay Avenue, whatever is going to attract someone with the vision to have a business in one of our storefronts and improve the real estate and improve the streetscapes to see the potential that Highlands has. What is going to be their incentive to come into town if we have 10 local vendors parked up and down Bay Avenue? The potential for 10. And I know this is a new business. I know this is a new business model. I think it's fine for carnivals and fairs and festivals and the farmers market, but to have up and down Bay Avenue on a daily basis, and this is going to be our business base, that's contributing nothing to our town. I do not think that most consumers come to a town to buy something off the back of the truck. Maybe it's bringing our own citizens out to Bay Avenue or down to other ends of Huddy Park to go look at the clothing, and maybe the clothing is beautiful. I don't know. But what I'm saying is this is not the business model we should be looking at to make the vision of Highlands rising. Because we are not rising. I don't see these mobile vendors in Seabright, and Seabright is rising. It's beautiful. If you drive down Ocean Avenue, it's coming back. The beach clubs are rising. Everything's coming back. The businesses are coming back. I don't see mobile vendors there.
Name in the back. Name and address for the record, please.
Stacy Pritchard, 130A Bay Avenue, Highlands, New Jersey. And actually, being someone that works art fairs and carnivals and things like that with my personal business, I can tell you that anytime we are there in a higher end carnival, on the street, we are bringing crowds to those communities. And the businesses there embrace us, bringing people in. She is just doing a local job at doing that. It is such an amazing business model that has been used in communities, in large communities across the country, and not seen as a blight, but seen as an innovative way to transform communities, and that's the type of out-of-the-box thinking we should be looking at. Why would we start putting a lid on, oh, we don't want this type of business, but we want that
The
type of
vision
business?
for our town is.
And
Wait, guys,
our
please.
vision-
Let's address the table, and you guys go.
And your comments should be addressed to the table.
Please.
Okay, you know
No,
what?
hang on.
And the vision is to fill Main
Liz,
Street
please,
with
let everybody
businesses,
talk.
I believe. Right?
I apologize, everybody was talking.
I think our vision is to fill Main Street with businesses. If we start saying we're not going to accept different types of businesses, it's going to always remain empty.
Jennifer Raquel, 179 Route 36. Question, and maybe somebody could just clarify this for me. If we have, say, 10 peddlers licenses, but are they renewable on an annual basis? Because if only 4 or 6 are being used, maybe the balance, we should say, okay, you don't use it in a year, you lose it, you gotta apply.
That's part of it.
So that's like, okay, sorry, I just wanna be clear, because then, so let other people come in. Atlantic Highlands even has one of those, it's a storefront, I don't know who owns it, I don't know much about it, but there's like 12 vendors in that storefront. It's that store with the red doors on First Avenue.
Somebody has to coordinate that.
Right, so, like, if somebody wants it that bad, maybe they should just coordinate that.
Okay. Mr. Francis?
Chris Francie, 36 Fifth Street. Just to correct one misconception, Seabright does have pop-up vendors. They call it a farmer's market. They started it late, all right? And in point of fact, it was recommended to Seabright, I think they're doing it next summer, though I can't verify that completely. They're gonna set up Saturday mornings in the parking lots before they get filled. Right opposite the stores where they're doing pop-up markets. So,
You know
yes,
why? Because it works.
absolutely it works. I mean, so,
I don't want to get into it, Mr. Francis, finish your comments.
I'm done, thank you. I'm just saying, Seabright does do it.
Let's take us home now, this is it, okay?
Melissa, 17 Bay Street. One other clarification on top of, in addition to that, because you brought it up for the first time, the whole reason that we kind of looked at going from 6 to 10 is because there was a waiting list of people to be on. So it's not like there's just 4 and.
Plus, let's clear the air too, people that weren't using them were still paying. Let's
Absolutely.
make that perfectly clear, they weren't being held in a closet somewhere and no one paid.
I'd like to comment.
Yeah, let's close the public portion. Mr. Card, go ahead, start us off.
As far as the license is concerned, if you have 1 or 100 or 1,000, if they're coming in and paying the money for them, and they want to put it in their pocket, it's their right. Okay? Now, if they don't use them, it's horrible for the town, so we just increase the numbers. What we need to make sure when we do this, because I really believe in this project, is to make sure they're public safety, that the police department's aware they're parking, so they're not a public nuisance. Regulated, that vehicles are safe in an orderly manner. But as Chris took my thunder away, these type of events are happening throughout the state of New Jersey. Going to Red Bank, Lantown, Seabright, down in Belmar. It's happening. It's a movement. And with all due respect, this town has nothing. And something is better than nothing right now. And we're in a blight situation. Now, who's to say one of these mobile vendors may say, you know, I want to go to brick and mortar.
Or buy a house.
Or buy a house in Hiram. Or say, maybe I'm tired of running out of the vehicle. I have a good market segment base here. Maybe we'll go into a brick and mortar. So we have to experiment and have outside the box. I'm not saying it's the right solution, but it's a movement. So we have no movement right now. The bids having difficulties getting retailers in. Sasha closed up, had nothing to do with Penelope, had to do with a contract negotiation with the rental. Now we have another piece of inventory sitting empty. And we're moving backwards. We're not moving forward, and this is an attempt to move forward. And we can retool it in a couple of years. If we find that retail is picking up, we can restrict the numbers down. But right now it's a movement. And I think we need to embrace it.
Anybody else at the table want to weigh in?
Yeah, I do. I actually like the idea of the pop-up shops. I support them, I've shopped at them all over the country, I think they're great. Initially, I just thought that it was wonderful, let's just add so many others to this number, but it turns out that the waiting list that I thought we had is really not what we were informed, that there aren't as many people waiting as we thought there were. But I still would like to see this happen, but I do have some caveats that I'm concerned about safety. I don't know if it would work having these vehicles up and down Main Street, Bay Avenue. I would prefer to see them all in one place safely, perhaps, I don't know, in
Designated area.
any designated area. It's working at Huddy Park, there's so many lovely things going on in that area. But I am concerned about the safety, and I'm concerned about having so many that are not being used. But I do support the idea, definitely, of the pop-up buildings, because many of them do then go and rent the space and become part of the community.
Mr. Redmond?
You know, I think it's a really good idea, and I'm really not against it. I like to get the ones that are being held back and get them active and have someone get in a research of who's going to come in. Because if we get a couple different vendors like they're out there, that's fine. I don't think we should go through, you know, Penelope out there with her stuff on Bay Avenue, which is fine, and then have 9 other food vendors that's really, I think we should be, well, he was talking about art back there to bring in some of that. That's fine, but I think we should get a list of that and work ourselves. Get the 6 we have now, get the ones that aren't used, get them working, get them used, and let's add on to see how they work. I mean, you're getting in the winter months right now, and how long is she going to be able to stay there? I don't know. The rain, the cold, or everything because of the weather. But I'd like to get the 6 we have now, establish it, and look forward in March to reopen it. And if we have to extend it to 10 or 12, can't we do it then? And I'll be in favor for it if it works.
I think that's a great idea. And I would like to work on the list that we have now, and then I will bring up in March, I will bring it back to the table and see what we can do, what others we can bring in once we go through this list and ascertain that everybody on here is still interested.
Well, we did leave messages at the end of the month, and I believe, did I get back to you?
She's trying to reach out.
I mean, so that really makes most of them off the list, so if you really do the math on the ones that were unable to reach, which I did leave those on the list just because I gave them the benefit of the doubt, you're gonna go from 6 to 10 we're talking about, with only 2 in use, leaving 4 open, and currently 6 are interested. So if those 6 get recycled into the 4 that aren't being used, you're really only having 2 on the waiting list. And here, you know, here's
Why
a
jeopardize losing those 2 though, in a time
But-
situation where a 10 is not a big number, and let's face it out, if we get 10, it'll be a miracle.
Well, and
vendors,
the
you know?
reality is too, there is no other Penelopes or anything like that on the list. They're all primarily hot dog carts. You know, I mean, that's what they, you know, said. Food carts, hot dog carts. I like Penelope. I think it's a great addition. I wish there were more of those type of vendors on this list, but I don't know that I want to line Bay Avenue at this point with 10 hot dog carts. I mean, that's my opinion.
And there's the perception that it's gonna be hot dog carts.
Well, that's what it says.
That's what they say.
They applied for it.
That's what it
Well,
is saying.
they do. The list is, I'm honest with you, I agree with you, the list is hot dog, but now we have that conversation on a business working model, and in my opinion, I don't think I would do the business model. It's a high risk, it's a big investment vehicle and all that. But she said if you could get the list back and good numbers, she's gonna help market the town and get other art trucks or whatever, other kind of, not hot dogs. 'Cause I don't wanna see 10 hot dogs either.
Okay,
I don't, maybe one, but we
Has she
need,
had other people apply?
she's encouraging people to apply, but then she was surprised when she got hers, that she got the phone call. She's like, oh, it was a lottery. So a lot of people have gotten disappointed and say, I'm not even bothered with Highlands because it's a lottery and I never get it. So we have to give it a fair opportunity.
The lottery has to stop.
It's all
We
discussion.
gotta take the 4.
How would we, what if we
Well-
got 5 hot dog work?
Okay.
Well, that's the thing I would.
All right. That's a regulation we have to work with.
Hang on,
Get
guys,
good-
hang on. Let's get one discussion. in my opinion, the peddlers have a vested financial interest in it because they own a part of the inventory, more so than if they just go rent a building. It works out of town, in bigger cities, having grown up in them and lived in them most of my life. I live down the block from where this particular person we're talking about is, and I see a ton of people who I don't know who they are from out of town coming in and going to her place. Those visions that we talked about were wonderful, that we saw these great movies on and these touch points on. The one thing they didn't have was money behind it. So it's nice to make a great vision, but there's no money attached to it, guys. So we need to make sure that we have, that's why the beach clubs came back, because that's Rumson money that brought that back. So they have a place to drop off their wife and kids, go to work. Let's all be very clear about that for the summer. That's bottom line. So as we move forward, and we're doing with the finance committee, and we're talking about it with our master plan, and hopefully the subcommittee will be talking about it at the planning board, we need to make sure that we're doing stuff that attracts money, not vision or pipe dreams. And by the way, I wouldn't limit it to anything. Let them apply for whatever they want to apply for, and let the law of business prevail. And the best person will still be there. And yes, many people do go to another town to go visit a place that does not have a store. I don't know if anyone's ever been to these, towns that are a little bigger than here, but they exist, trust me. So let's vote.
Anyone?
I'll offer it.
I offer final reading and adoption, ordinance 0-14-22, an ordinance amending section 2.9, number of food vendor licenses to be issued to increase the number of the food and non-food vendor licenses to 10. And that's offered by Mayor Nolan.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Park. Mr. Park.
Yes.
Ms. Kane.
No.
Mr. Redmond.
I'm gonna say yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
14-24, you want to read it first, Beck?
Yes. On the second reading of public hearing, ordinance 0-14-24, an ordinance amending chapter 10, buildings and houses of the Borough Code to adopt laws regarding repair, maintenance, security, and upkeep of vacant and abandoned residential properties in foreclosure.
Let's open the public hearing on 14-24. Anyone have any questions on the ordinance? Sir, you're up first. Name and address, please, for the record.
Jim Davis, Twin Lights in Highland. My only question is, does the borough have this authority in federal law?
I will have to defer to my legal department.
This statute, this ordinance is based on a state statute that was recently passed.
So the answer would be yes?
So I haven't researched the federal
Family
code.
savings and loan that's.
You may be right, I'm relying on the state legislators. They said we could do it, so it helps the town, so we went ahead and did it.
What prevails? If it's called president, is it state or federal?
Federal will prevail, it was federally preempted.
I just want to make sure everyone understands that for the record.
Another question.
Thank you, sir.
Chris Francie, 36 Fifth Street. This was a powerful law, puts a tremendous amount of power in the hands of borough officials to do what we have wanted them to do for a long, long time. I mean, at this point, you read it, at this point, you could create enough work for 2 or 3 people tomorrow.
Okay,
How are we gonna get done the things that it talks about?
let's hope we get to that like we hope we have 10 peddlers on Bay Avenue. We've got to talk about directing traffic around it.
I mean, we have that situation on Captain's Cove out in front of us. It's taken us 2 years.
I don't want to go any further on that because we're in litigation, as you know, because you're part of it, and there is some movement happening on that, but we can't obviously bring that out of the executive.
Okay, let me say, on an area that has some water in it in the middle of town, we've struggled to get anything done.
Correct.
And the concept that we have this power and then we don't do it is gonna be very frustrating, guys.
I think that this is a little more of a scope, opens up what we can do, reinforces what we can do.
There's no question about it.
And here's the main thing too. Some of the things, as you know from sitting up here for many years, is when we had an issue come up and we wanted to change something, it was almost like you were spot attacking. This is now a broad-based thing, so if anything happens like another incident where there's a piece of property with water in it in town, this will help us, or ordinances like it will help us because we don't have to rely on creating as we go.
Okay, I just hope we give the resources to it, guys.
We're also looking at restructuring some of our housing building department and our police department, putting the right personnel
Correct.
to enforce such laws like this and ordinances, to be aggressive.
I
Correct, Mr. Carr's right, we got about I would say a 20-page document tonight talking about the restructuring between the council, and we're gonna come back and address it.
But I'm hopeful, look, you're hiring 6 people for 6 months. I'm hoping that there's some part of that that's gonna be devoted to this effort.
I don't think we can lose if we do, because all that money will be gained back on liens and attachments to property.
Okay.
Mayor,
But I don't know whether the ordinance talks about funding code enforcement effort. It doesn't talk about funding the lawyer effort, which is gonna be required, you know. I don't know, I'm just,
Understand?
Chris, and for the public, I think one of the big points of this legislation was to really go after out-of-state banks and institutions that have almost been negligent. And I think a lot of the crux of this law really puts the onus on them and gives the borough more authority, and statewide, to go after those type of institutions. So that part of it, I think, is, I understand what you're saying on the other end, some of the institution, the law that we have in place, but I think that a lot of this was really going after and making it clear that they have to appoint in-state people so that we don't have to waste a lot of resources calling California to get the runaround. So
I think you're gonna run up against what Mr. Bemis points out. When you start dealing with out-of-state banks and mortgage companies, all right? I think we have a lot of quote-unquote smaller fish, local properties held by local people, no mortgages involved, they've just been skating, and I hope we're committed, guys. I mean, I really salute you for at this point, pushing this forward, but boy, are we gonna be unhappy if we talk about this a year from now, and there isn't one action, or we're dealing with another situation like the street that has water around it, you know, it's, you know,
But put you on for the first conversation in a year from now, so we can have that.
okay,
Between,
I'll sign.
between what's been presented to us by Ms. Kane and Tim Hill tonight, quite honestly, we're gonna have to hardline issues. We need a judge that's gonna stand up and enforce our ordinances in this town. Unfortunately, that's in, you know, you can move on that. It's a bigger picture than just this one ordinance that you're applying.
Oh, no, it is a bigger picture, so that there's gonna be a greater degree of frustration if we don't get any action, that's all.
Right, but my confidence in the meeting that we had earlier in the executive session, we're moving aggressively forward.
Okay. Ms. Dillon, you had your hand up first, I'm sorry. Name and address for the record, please.
Miranda Dibble, 2 Mountain Street. My question is, if, once you determine that the properties are vacant or abandoned, what sort of measures would you suggesting that would be taken? Would the borough maintain it and then charge that back, or would it be fines, or how would it?
Bruce, what's the legal process of what we're doing?
It's pretty lengthy. It involves notice, and then you go through, and there's daily fines that become liens on the property.
And anything on the end that we expended will go as a lien to the property, correct?
I believe so.
That was my reading of it.
Right, mine also.
I'm trying to look at some of the details to address.
I wish we were a little more confident, I believe so.
No, I mean, it's a lengthy ordinance, and I'm trying to answer the specific question, not the generality.
We have ordinances in place that allow us to recover any costs associated with, we don't even need this. We have ordinances. What we don't have is people writing the violations and enforcing them. So this is just a more broader, effective tool. I think Tim said it best. Allows us to go to the out-of-state mortgage companies or banks that are owning these properties and are not being responsible.
Right.
We have the ability to collect every penny back from the negligent property owners. We just got to enforce the ordinances we have. And I guess I'm repeating myself. Lori, to help you, we're gonna slam the hammer on the people who are negligent. We need to find that hammer via personnel, and we're gonna find it. But we're punching numbers.
Okay, so I guess my concern is there are a number of properties that are vacant that clearly would fit within this, but they're not necessarily, they're being maintained, or you know that they're vacant, but they wouldn't necessarily have obvious code enforcement sort of things. And I'm wondering, would you only be applying this to vacant properties that did have maintenance problems?
I think we're gonna explore
Everything.
I think we're gonna explore everything, and then Union Beach just put in a thing where if you don't have a certificate of occupancy, they can fine you. So I think what we need to move into a position, whether it's in this or not, we maybe to add to this resolution that even a vacated property that's sitting empty must pass a minimum CO for safety, so that it's not, so the raccoons aren't living in there getting little holes. So that's what we can make, fire hazard, so we can go on a yearly basis and inspect that property, make sure it meets the requirements of minimum safety standards.
But I think they're like Doug said too, we need to have a sequel place to do that, direct the resources correctly, and tighten up some of the ordinances. This is what everybody's been asking for.
And Union Beach,
Here we are.
implement it, and let's give them 4 months to see how it goes.
When you're gonna share this 20-page document?
I think it, I mean, there's specific things people talked about, so in fairness to them, it's not, fair to say, put that on the street now without having a conversation with them.
Can we put it on Facebook?
It's not on, what, the official page or the non-official? Is there anything else? Anybody else have any questions or concerns on 1424? I'll close the public portion.
On final reading and adoptions, ordinance 0-14-24, an ordinance amending chapter 10, buildings and housings of the Borough Code to adopt laws regarding the care, maintenance, security, upkeep of vacant and abandoned residential properties in the code.
I'll offer it.
By Mayor Melton. Second by Ms. King.
Any discussions or at the table, or? I don't know, good, Great, please, go ahead.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Melton.
Yes.
Motion carries. For final reading, this one, I have my transmittal where the notice is in the newspaper, but it was never published, so I need a motion to table this.
I'll offer that till what date, Karen?
Went to November 5th, or can we do December 3rd, give me more time?
If you have the time to do it for December
Let's do
3rd,
December 3rd.
okay, I'll offer that.
Offered by Mayor Mills. Second. Second by Ms. King. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Milton.
Yes. Please tell me 1428 is done right.
No. No.
Thank you.
Careful, the law, 25 was done properly.
What's that?
25 was done properly, Mike.
I'm not saying it's better, I'm just saying it's done properly. I don't know, listen, you know me, fix the problem. 1428, you want to read it first, Karen?
An ordinance authorizing the Borough Council to amend section 7-4 of the Borough Code to designate Valley Avenue a one-way street in the direction of northeast from Highland Ave to Route 36. This was published.
Okay, I'll open this to public hearing, 14-28. Name and address, please, sir, for the record.
Jim Davis, Twin Lights. Because this goes to a state highway, could you show that you've gotten state approval?
The statute says you do not need state approval for this type of work.
Initial thought was you did.
Correct.
That was incorrect.
I was wrong.
For the record.
It's on the state here. Okay.
Anything else, sir? You good? Anybody have any other thoughts or comments on this? Name and address for the record.
Jennifer Burkell, the corner of Valley Avenue and Route 36.
In this case, ground zero.
Yes, ground zero. I just, first of all, want to say thank you to the council for making the decision for fixing the poles that are up there. It's greatly appreciated. I've noticed people even slowing down to make that turn because those poles are a big yellow hello. But I think ensuring the safety of people on that corner and people, especially new kids getting their license, making the right on that road. There have been 18 accidents in the last 16 years that I've lived there. And I think you're not only saving lives, but you're ensuring my family's safety, my little family's safety by making that a one-way ensuring that that's a one-way egress to 36.
I agree with you,
So
not
it's
only
greatly
that,
appreciated.
I think that the percentage has gone down since the polls have been put up.
Absolutely.
I think that it was 1 every 3 months or something at one point, it was crazy.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? Seeing none, I'll close the portion.
On file reading and adoption is an ordinance authorizing the borough plans to amend section 7-4 of the Borough Code to designate Valley Avenue a one-way street in the direction of northeast from Highland Avenue to Route 36.
I'll offer it.
Offered by Mayor Knowles. Second by Ms. Kane. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Yes.
Amen. Motion carries.
Other business, or do we have another ordinance? No? Okay. The review of the 2014 best practices inventory, adoption R14217.
Mr. de Blasio?
Sure, I can speak
Pat, you
on
want
that.
to speak to this?
I sure will. Yeah, a couple of years ago, Mayor, the state of New Jersey came out with a best practice inventory, and the purpose it's a questionnaire consisting of about 50 questions, and the town goes through it and answers yes or no or perspective or NA on the questions there, and it's ranked and scored at the very end. And the purpose of this inventory here is to promote accountability, sound management, and transparency. So as we went through and answered the questions to the best that we could, we came up with a score of 88. So it's ranked. It's compared to other towns. If you get a score of 80 or below, the state withholds a percentage of your last state aid payment. And they would withhold 5% of the last 5%. Actually, I'm sorry, the 1% of the last 5% they would withhold. But we're in compliance here. But it is used as a toolkit. So anything that has a no answer or an NA or something like that, it can be used to help promote the town, help make the town a little bit better there, if you want to implement any of the policies that are shown in there. But right now, the only thing that we need to do with this is it's been sent off to the state already. It was due by Friday. It had to be in. And the only thing now, it has to appear in the minutes of the meeting. So that could be done by either a resolution or just a matter of discussion.
Okay, can I ask a question? Are there anything you see on there that we can improve on? Are we over 90? Just in case something falls by the wayside?
Yes, right. So we're at 88, and certainly we got a little ways to go before 80. Yeah, there's certainly things that we can talk about.
Maybe for them to make recommendations moving forward for us?
You got it.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments on the table?
Pat, for our conversation earlier today, I have quite a few recommendations. It's a great report card, as you said. So I think we can get up to that time.
You want to get together with them?
Oh, absolutely.
Make recommendations coming back to us? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a plan to start. Okay, anyone else? Good. Okay, so Bruce, what do we have to do to comply with what Mr. Blasio is asking us?
I would just adopt a resolution accepting his report.
Would that be 14217?
Yes.
Okay, I'll offer that.
Offered by Mayor Mellon,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Redmond. Mr. Park?
Yes.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Mellon.
Yes.
Any other house raising requirements?
Dale, are you speaking to this, or is
No.
Ken?
Yeah, I think that was with regards to the new state regulations for house elevating contractors. Folks aren't aware of that. They may want to take a look at the DCA site. And if you're a contractor raising a house now, you have to have an additional registration as mandated by the state of New Jersey. So in addition to your home improvement contractor license, there's another category now for registration for elevation. This is state law, it's not on the local level. The Department of Consumer Affairs also has the information up on the website, but technically, if you are going to have your house raised, your contractor should be able to provide to you as a homeowner as well, $1 million liability insurance policy, and the fact that they are registered with the state formally, not just an application saying that they've applied.
For the record, it's a liability for the contractor.
Right, it's liability on the contractor, not the homeowner. Unfortunately, the state rolled this out and is really pushing it as October 1 is their deadline. If you look at the site, I think there's probably 20 to 30 pending contractors, and some of them are the bigger contractors that have been working in our town as well. So contractors are becoming aware of this, and it is going to be regulated where our building department will not be able to issue permits for house raising if the contractor does not provide that registration number. So DCA is coming down, not just in Highlands, but across the state limits. So if anyone has any questions, I'll try to answer them the best on the legislation that came, but I'll give you.
I reviewed this with Nancy and Paul this afternoon, and if a contract was signed before October 1st, they can proceed. All right?
Right.
And these licenses aren't gonna be, at this point, Nancy and Paul don't think those licenses are gonna be coming out until after the new year.
Right, but they can't waive a waive. They've been told that by the state. They can't waive any of the requirements
And
of the
but
license.
the other requirement that was talked about was this unified lifting system. And they backed away from that. They talk about a generic hydraulic system, and it allows our construction official to make a judgment that the equipment is satisfactory. To me, it puts a fair amount of pressure on Paul.
Locally, sure.
Locally, which I both is good, and to some degree, maybe we're not paying Paul for those big decisions, but it's not, if your contract was signed before 10/1, you can move ahead. So, it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Okay. Yeah,
I
question?
just have a question. Is it the actual contractor or the person raising your house? Because there's a contractor that you can hire, and then you can just hire the
But if they sub
company
out,
raising your house.
my advice, and I'm not an attorney, if they sub out, I want to know that who's ever lifting my house has that credential.
Would mirror it.
Because I don't know that the state's allowing you to transfer that responsibility.
Especially if they're giving out the license, if you will. So
So-
if I get a license, I can't subcontract the tower because the state has a license.
The permitting process would have scope of work, and you would say lifting of home, so Paul Powell would, in this case, would require the proper credentials.
Because I have two separate people, that's why I'm asking you.
Right.
Contractor,
Well,
then I have a different, somebody else lifting my house, so who is the one that has to?
Well,
have
both of, technically, both the
Technically,
contractors
both.
should already be registered as a contractor with the state, technically. If they're doing the house lifting, that's another checkbox. So, to be honest with you, contractor's supposed to be registered in the first place,
Not only that, even before.
even
this-
before saying.
Even before this piece of legislation or license came out, people should have made sure they had, insurance on the contractors anyway. I mean, this just backs up a lot of common sense things that
And
just going in place now.
the only last thing I want to add is the site of the DCA isn't as current as we would like it to be either, because there are contractors on that site that are listed as being deficient or expired that have in fact renewed. It's just that their database doesn't reflect that. So again, you have to do your best, see the actual document, not some copy that looks like it was whited out.
Okay.
That's the best we can tell you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Noise ordinance update, is that you got?
How you doing? Thank you, Mayor. This noise ordinance, I'm meeting with Kevin Redmond tomorrow night, and Chief Floyd, who's going to be here tonight. But I want to offer, I've offered this a couple months ago in a council meeting. It is the noise ordinance that I wish we would adopt.
Okay.
And I believe we can adopt. It holds all legal merits. More importantly, it gives the chief of police to use two different forms of enforcement based on both using a meter, which does not require specialized training, it's what they call a C-weight network.
Okay.
These meters cost anywhere from $85, let's see, to a high-end $500.
Okay.
They're self-calibrating, you turn them on, they calibrate, you read them, you fill out the report, and you go. Well, what's important about this ordinance that was written, or I'm proposing that we adopt, it defines everything very clearly so that there's no ambiguity on behalf of the police officer, the person getting the summons, and the judge, or the prosecutor. There's no getting out of jail here.
It's black and white in your opinion.
Yeah, it's black and white. I do want to meet with the chief and Kevin just to go over verification of everything, and I think we're ready to make movement on it.
I know you guys have had a series of meetings, we've been waiting for this document to come back, right?
Yeah, and the other issue associated with this, with the business owners giving letters to us, I did turn them over to Steve from the EC. He's going to reach out to every one of those business owners and work with their their needs and trying to help with the
and how
sound.
they can help impact
Right.
positively. Okay, so when do you think you'll be ready to bring it back to the table? I know we've got.
Next meeting.
November 5th?
Yeah, I
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't feel it's gonna be a problem.
Okay, just do me a favor, when you guys agree to it, make sure we pass a copy on to our attorney. So we're all on the same page. Is that okay?
This one I got right here.
All right, so I'm sure we're all on the same page, that's all. Okay, thank you, sir. Veterans Park Project. Who's talking on that at the table?
I don't have any update.
Okay,
I don't know. Probably when.
what are you talking about? I apologize. You're gonna talk about it?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Just because they dismantled over the weekend.
They took it
All right, please, just update us then, so the folks that weren't down there or weren't there.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody that did come. I wasn't sure if do you want to?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you to Carla and the fire department gentlemen that showed up. Unfortunately, I did not get all the names.
Okay.
They were great. The DPW guys were awesome. We had a very successful, just cleaning up what we did just makes it 100% better. We do have numbers, I believe. Tim, we got hold of numbers. We're trying to crunch the numbers so we don't spend the open space money any more than we need to.
Do we think we'll have that by the 5th also, or no?
I'm hoping for some numbers to come back from.
Just because you have to ask the third.
Yeah, I don't, we don't want to rush it.
I don't wanna rush
We want to get the right material. I know Tri-Bar is coordinated going in there.
I know.
Great.
But also, I was just gonna say the same thing, that, we may not even wanna go ahead until the spring.
No, but at least we know what we're
We'll
doing.
Yeah.
have
we want,
numbers.
But we can order it now, or be ready to order it, know what we're doing and go.
Yeah, I think,
Weather.
Well,
yeah,
if they're willing.
we're willing and we're capable, we're gonna do it.
You're probably gonna get any volunteer labor in the winter, because you don't have jobs, my opinion, but
No,
whatever.
company knows.
Yeah, Tri-Bar is good for it.
He's right,
I
he's
understand.
just waiting.
But anyone that's gonna do any labor for you, or is gonna have some line of a job, is probably gonna do it for municipalities last. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, he's just waiting for the material at this point.
Great.
So, Mr. Hill just got the list last week.
No, I got the list, yeah, but there's discrepancies in the list and you're getting back to me with other vendors that you're working with, so let's.
So that's our only way.
I was gonna say.
Thank you.
They're actually working, we have two other gentlemen, or reputable contractors, that are taking the material list that I put together and shopping it around, see what numbers they can come up with, to give more resources to Tim Hill and the purchasing agent, saying, here's some other options to help you out.
Kind of like a scope.
Yeah.
Do you wanna talk about how far we're going with this?
Yeah,
What did we agree on?
We are going, we cut, if you go down, I would ask that you guys go down and take a look at it, it's easier that way, but the band area, then you have the gazebo area all the way on the other, I'd say this north side. The walkway, about halfway, we've eliminated from the halfway point towards the boardwalk area, because the funding is simply not gonna allow for all that. But, based on our material cost, we'll determine how far we can go. We're gonna go as far as we can go without, I mean, if we got to spend the whole $150,000, I think we could do the whole thing. But I don't think we want to spend the whole $150,000. I think
How much over would be we don't know.
We don't have enough yet.
We think we're halfway there, or 75%?
I'd say
More than half.
more than halfway.
And there'll be a rampway that
For ADA.
leads up, so, so we're looking at composite material that matches the adult bench program.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna, look at.
So how short would we be from doing the whole thing in one shot? Does anyone have that number? Or
My rough.
40 grand, 20 grand?
We can probably get you that number.
I would say my number's about 120.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. It's unfortunately, because the damages on the other end where the gazebo area was extensive, the understructure, not the poles that hold everything up.
Just want to make sure
But
we're
the
not
understructure.
going forward with 20 grand.
No.
It's
We
much
would
more
be
than that.
talking.
Okay, so we're gonna send out emails then, I assume, so we'll know what we're doing by sometime in
Yes.
November, December?
Again, we should be able to walk.
Yeah, because what Tri-Bar is going to do is regrade it and then make it right to the stone wall, concrete wall that's there now. And then the band area and probably, I mentioned that about 120 feet of it is going to be a walk area. And at the end of that, we'll have a ramp for so people.
We'll be the same page.
Yes.
Oh.
And then.
Yeah, let's make sure we all know how far we are. Obviously, 120 we're not making up. if it's 30 grand or something, then, you know, we don't need to worry
The
about
area that they're gonna grade, where the boards will not be replaced is gonna be filled with new sand.
Yeah.
And we,
it. With the ability to replace it later if we want.
yeah, exactly, we're leaving the,
As those monies.
The
Island, island being
Still
cut
be
down.
there.
Okay.
Want to make sure we're all on the same page, that's all.
You don't jeopardize rebuilding it because we're not removing the final
Right.
elements. We don't have to go through that whole capital DEP decision.
And we're gonna look at, black, commercial railings, that where we
Not
got,
metal.
no, but that where we got the fence.
We don't want to static electric.
Yeah, no, right?
That's still real.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and we still have to make, mention that and make sure that we
Absolutely.
look into
Not a
that.
lightning rod. Okay, thank you. North Street Pump Station.
Nothing?
North Street Pump, anybody?
Are we going to move forward with the project?
I thought we already approved the project.
Which part of the
For,
It needs to be.
we did for,
North
We're waiting for the election.
You are me.
It's up to you. If you wanna move forward, that's fine. I mean, basically, I mean, I've been at a standstill since last year. The project hasn't moved forward. I know there's some concerns about the size of it. We did tear it down somewhat. There are other options. It lowers your level of protection, but it takes the cost out of it too. So it's just a matter of just revisiting it and getting a consensus to move it forward. Just keep in mind that at this stage in the game, you're still looking at Tier 4 compliance like we are with Snug Harbor, but being that it's an electric pump with a diesel generator, those requirements are minimal. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. But yeah, I mean, the project as it stands now is virtually shovel ready. Just a few odds and ends to close the loop on and finalize the specs. But it's just a matter of if the borough wants to move forward with the project or not.
I think I remember the last time we spoke with this, obviously we were concerned with the size of it. Now there's added measures and also the price tag, I think is 1.2 million, which I think we should not leave that on the table. I mean, it's a big chunk.
Right, it's a big nut. The intent was in the beginning from Arcadis to it had to be constructed to codes and standards and had to withstand the storm. Obviously, what was there originally did not withstand the storm, and this has to be the components have to be mitigated and up to the 500-year floodplain because it's a critical facility. So there are parameters that actually makes this a large station. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on the table?
My position, we should move forward on it.
Okay.
There's actually a second component, and this is something that Tim, feel free to chime in on this one. There's a second component that we've got CD money for to replace that pipe down North Street. Now there was talk about me moving some of that money into the station, trying to reprogram it through CD. That was discussed but never finalized. So that's something that we would need to move on, I'd say sooner than later, so we don't jeopardize losing that funding, whichever way we go to go.
Okay.
But obviously the pipe into the station has to be addressed at some point as well.
And that's the portion of the CDBG money that's still
Correct.
hanging out there. So we've got to make sure that we tie that in, because that fund, in order to apply again next year, we've got to expend those funds.
Okay, then you have to do it. That's good.
Do it.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to go?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
And I would second that.
Mr. Bregman, Mr. Ryan, first and second.
Okay, Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
What I'll do is I'll dust the planes back off again and get them to completion. And then,
Shelf ready also as well as shovel ready?
right. And then what I'll do is I'll come back to council if there's a couple council members, whatever the flavor is.
You know what I would recommend you can do, so if I'm having issues, go to Tim, he'll dispense everything out to all of us, and we'll go from there.
No problem. I can do that.
Thank you, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
we have the New Jersey Resiliency Coastal Community Initiative.
Yeah, Mayor, I can speak to that. That was sent out from the New Jersey DEP just to make us aware of this initiative. I talked to Steve Nelson. Basically, this is exactly what New Jersey Future and the other organizations are doing. He saw that this was just a duplication more so than any new initiative. although I think we did do the survey, to at least be involved in the process, but again, this is something that's a duplication of something we're already involved in. It doesn't give us any more dollars attached, there's nothing attached to it, so. We'll keep an eye on this, there's certainly nothing that can be harmful, but again, he thought the process is redundant of many things that we've already done.
So if there's something we have to make a move on, you'll let us know.
Absolutely.
Okay. We have a number 7, it's a late edition, it's nothing, I don't think we can like it, Rod. Request for post office support letter, Ms. Kane, you want to speak?
Yeah, I had a couple of residents reach out to me, and I haven't had the issue yet of not being able to pick up mail in Highlands, but apparently you can't anymore. You have to go to Rumson to pick up, if you don't get a package and you're not there on time, you have to go to Rumson. So luckily enough, that hasn't happened to me. Everything I buy, they leave on the door, but it's definitely gonna be a burden for our residents, and especially our seniors, some that are attacked, stuff like that, where they walk over to the post office, they get their mail, they do such things. So really, to get over to Rumson, I feel is gonna be a heartache for them. So what I'd like to do is have the town draft a letter, maybe we can work with Postmaster Phil Donahue over there to get the details and show us support to really try to get as many of those functions happening in Highlands as opposed to making our residents leave town to pick up their goods. So if everybody's okay with that.
I'm okay with that, that's fine. Hang on one second, does anybody at the table want to?
No,
Everyone's fine with that? Did you want to weigh in on that, and then you'll go too, sir?
Well, yesterday, we had a certified letter waiting for us, and I did drive to Rumson, and they informed me at that time that if we just call them and let them know whether it's a package and all, they will come and they will deliver to the Highlands. That's
Okay.
what they told me. All you have to do is call Rumson, let them know when you're gonna be there, and they'll deliver, whether it's a certified letter or package, they'll deliver it to your house. Just
Perfect, thank you. Sir?
I've also been working on this issue. The culprit, his name is Darren, he's the postmaster in Homestead. He made the decision unilaterally. I've elevated it to, down to the Camden Regional Office, already waiting for a call back from the customer service manager. The excuse that Darren is giving is it's not adequate. It means you have to hang around all day to wait for it's called accountable mail, are the words that we use to describe it. It's accountable mail. And then it's a severe thing. The people at the post office, off the record, were going berserko when I was talking to them about it. They said, Phil and the woman in charge, I don't know where I am, was just going nuts. They said they're against it, but they can't say anything because he's their boss.
Right, of course. So the local people in Highlands want it, talking post office workers, and someone else is making a decision outside that.
Yeah, and I think Darren, his name is Darren, the person who's talking with him.
I know who it is.
And I've got a call into Camden right now to Al, I think,
Okay.
I'm expecting a call back. But keep the heat on. I think Cologne's involved.
Right, and I think if we could show a letter.
We're going to send a letter to our elected officials beyond this table outside of the ladder of change, whichever you have. Thank you, sir. We're going to go to public portion. Jim Beaman.
Yeah, what a surprise. Sorry I'm speaking so much tonight.
It's okay.
R14-219 talks about a stipulation of settlement that's passed, not passed in my packet. Can you tell us what that is?
219.
Oh, that was the.
Yeah, that was the American Legion. I have a copy here, you can look at it, we read it at last meeting.
Okay, I apologize, I'm thinking.
It was basic. Sorry. Okay.
And my last thing, addressing the town council. Approximately a month ago, we spoke to them and we discussed parking on Portland Road.
Correct.
And at the time, you committed that you would review the ordinance and get back and have an answer. What is the answer?
I can handle that, Mayor. We are looking at both sides of the street. As you know, there's signs up there that are illegal that were placed up there God knows how many years ago. There's a recommendation from the chief about sections that we feel adequate parking could be allowed. But in fairness, there's 1 or 2 homes, particularly on the right, and I don't know their actual addresses.
East or west side, I'm sorry.
I'll say going up the hill.
The riverside or the
I'll say going up the hill, not coming down the hill. And there's a particular home that has like sort of parking. It doesn't appear as though they have a driveway. So I've asked the chief to reach out to that resident because again, we don't want to pass an ordinance that's going to be punitive to a resident or residents if it's a safe parking scenario. But this one is sort of, as you go up the hill, there's a little house right there. and it seems like they park off to the side, but not actually off the street. So we're concerned about that one. Other areas, Chief has commented on from a public safety standpoint and with the fire prevention, that stretches down, I'll say, from Hillside to Portland. In that area, we feel both sides may be adequate there. Going up from Hillside, perhaps, and this is just a suggestion that's coming, that would be on the left side coming down the hill. There's a little stretch there that could allow some parking that exists already, but anything up above, all around that curve area, once you get beyond that one little problem house I'm talking about, it is recommended that no parking on either side. So we're trying to address it and how to come up with, well, I think he sent over to the lawyer today the proximity and the footage from each property that they're trying to isolate where no parking can be enforced. But again, we don't want to penalize that.
My original question was there ever an ordinance to back up those
No.
existing signs?
No.
Not that you can find.
Here's
Okay,
my question.
there was no ordinance that we could find.
Can we get this plan together?
Yeah, we're working on it.
By 11/5 or 12/3?
I would say it should be able to be done by November. Yeah, because we're that far along.
If we have to, we'll have an ordinance to introduce.
Yeah.
Correct?
Thank you.
No problem, sir. Ms. Dibble, I believe you're next.
Gloria Dibble to Matthew Street. I know there's a lot of other issues that are gonna come up tonight. I have something that I just wanted to say. I personally find it offensive to open a government meeting with a prayer. I realize that you can do this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should.
Okay.
And I think that religion is a personal matter, and I don't think that the government or our municipality should be opening our sessions.
Okay. Thank you. Kim Scorpio?
Kim Scorpio, 315 F Shore Drive. I find it rather shocking that, given how slow some things move in government, that when it comes to the residents voicing their opinions, resolutions get passed immediately. A 2-minute rule earlier this year got introduced, passed immediately. All of a sudden, something happens on Facebook, another resolution passed immediately. Captain's Cove is still a disaster, from what I understand. A couple months ago, the council decided the town will clean it up and will place a lien on the property. I know there's litigation. Apparently, at that point, nobody seemed to think the litigation was going to be an issue. It was going to get cleaned up, lien placed. It's still a mess. Why can't you move like that in Captain's Cove? It's mind-boggling. I want to know what the punishment is. If I happen to post on the Facebook page, forget the disclosure. I'm on 2 committees. I volunteered at the park on Saturday. I plan on cleaning up the beach this weekend. What if I post something without a disclosure?
I want to answer to that too. I'd like to have it in writing.
Okay. Mr. Dibble?
The resolution itself doesn't address any penalty for violating
So there is
the
no.
resolution.
So we spent all this time on a resolution so I can go on Facebook and continue to post the way I've been posting
Kim,
without
seriously, all this time, it's a one-page document.
With-
It took about 6 minutes to type.
without any repercussions. So this resolution has no teeth.
Well, if I can, Mayor and Mr. Badul, when it comes to the section referring to particularly employees, because that's listed in there as well, we do have a section in our personnel policy that does address that type of conduct within the borough. So this is farther reaching than just, perceptions out there. It's not a personal attack on anyone. And maybe the next step is we are having to look at expanded policies on how conduct, but right now there is no punitive action.
I actually find it offensive too when employees call us and say, I read somewhere that you guys are firing me. And it's on a website or a page that says Highlands and they think it's us. Or information coming out of our meetings. So there's 2 sides to every story.
Hold on 1 second.
Well, this is a drive, so we're not
I want to make sure I get my 3 minutes. Did anybody speak to John Schneider, who is the creator of this Facebook page, and ask him to clarify the title? Or put a disclaimer at the top of the page? No, you immediately jump to conclusions and write up this resolution that may or may not have consequences for me if I forget to put a disclaimer. I worked long and hard to get on the finance committee, and I don't want one mistake to get me kicked off. And that's what this seems like. It seems like if I do one slip up, say one thing wrong, forget a not, add a not, and all of a sudden now.
Well, some of the things that the people have come back to us with are not a mistake, they're a choice. So when someone writes on there, I'm firing people, that's not a mistake, that's a choice to say that.
Yeah, you can say anything you want on Facebook.
You can.
You can believe anything you want on Facebook.
You can. I agree, listen, I don't go on, I'm just telling people to come back to this thing. I don't waste my time, I actually have fun.
It's about social media too, it's just not Facebook, there's other forums that a lot of residents use in this community to communicate the issues.
Agreed. And there's nothing changing that, it's just not our official page.
If you have the town employee coming back and saying, I'm being fired, that a town employee should be first question, where did you find out, what your reasons? Has your immediate superior told you that? It's not coming from your immediate superior that all that town employee is doing is instigating the problem. And that's where the problem is, not where you get the source from.
Okay.
So, again, just for the record, we've heard it here, there is no consequences, so I wouldn't worry about making a mistake.
Thank you.
Or a choice. Carol Butler?
Carol Butler, 330 Shore Drive. I really can't talk as fast as Kim, so I might run out of time. I'll do these in order of importance. When are you going to address our municipal service contract? I've been working on it for 10 years of my life down the tubes, because you guys won't address it. We met with Pat. I met with Steve. I met with Steve so many times I was practically taking him off as a dependent. And I met with Pat recently, and we can't move off the page. We
Pat,
can't
what's stopping us
seem
right
to-
Why is that? Why can't it go forward?
Well, first of all, pretty new at that.
Okay.
We sat down, we put down her concerns and comments, and I imagine at this point that we'll talk to administration and legal to see if we can go ahead and address those concerns in the contract. They seem to be pretty much in line with what other condo associations have.
You know, I think that it's prejudicial treatment, because Jennifer comes here and she wants a one-way street, and bam, it's done the next month. I've been working.
She's been asking for that for 10 years, that's 10 years she's going through that, Carol.
So, okay, but we have to address that. I would like that set up for this year.
He said he's going to go.
Okay, the second question is for Dale. You weren't here at the last meeting, but I want some information on that house that I went to see you about, that you said you didn't have any
Free
information on
Matthews?
at that time. The Matthews Street house,
Well-
109.
Carol, the way I understood it is when he came to the meeting, I wasn't here, that you said our conversation was that they never came through zoning. And they did actually 6 times before I actually
I didn't
approved them.
see it in the minutes, I've read every minute.
Well, the zoning, it wasn't the zoning board, it's zoning officer came to my table during office hours, which shows that's not a meeting.
Oh,
So they come to me, right? I'm telling you, 6 times, no less. Changing the plans, revising this, revising that to comply with the ordinance.
well, that's what you told me, but then
All right.
I don't, what concerns me are the setbacks.
Right,
It's
yeah.
too close to our building.
All right, well, let me finish. All right, it's the building's up on pilings. All right, it looks like a big building. There's no doubt about it. It is a big building. All right, I checked when they drove the piles in and they put the band around it. They have to provide say an interim elevation certificate to show the location of the foundation and the location, or to make sure the piles are high enough. So when you put the house on it, you're high enough and you're in the right location. So that all complied. All right, every setback was met. The elevations are met. That house is in full compliance.
And it is 20 feet from our property.
It's I forget what the actual offhand. I forget what the actual requirement was, but
He
yes.
has a great big lot there, and he didn't have to put it on top of a building.
But that's his lot, his choice.
Well, yeah, but I think that he has to be 20 feet away.
Yeah, well, I know what the requirement is, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember what the actual distance was. If you want to come down and see me, I can show you the document. You know, if you want, I can review it with you. I mean, I have no problems doing that. All right?
All right. The pilot program, we didn't get very much information about it, but I would be very wary of that private residents should pay taxes. Pilot programs are for the senior center, things like that, where they don't pay taxes. They pay an amount in lieu of taxes, and that also makes them ineligible for anything else, like property tax freeze, stuff like that, any kind of rebates.
Abatements, anything.
They're ineligible for all that stuff.
Right.
But you could lock yourself into private residence that will be paying less than their fair share of their taxes. And I think that's very, very dangerous.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I wanted to speak to Doug about his problem with maybe comments on Facebook. I don't know anything about Facebook. I can't even get on the thing, so I don't even know anything about it. But I was on the Board of Education. I've been on boards at our condo and everything, and the council, and we all have the same rule. You may never, ever address the public as a council person. You may never speak for the council unless you have permission of everybody on the council. So you have to be very careful about that, because I'm sure that's a law, that it always was, and it was on the Board of Education, Tara, which I'm surprised you didn't realize that.
I'm the one to tremble.
Anyway, so that's a small issue. And then R14222, hiring temp clerk. Do you ever put these things, advertise these things?
What we did with this one was internally, because of all the work that's going to be done in our existing systems, we went to our existing workforce and really wanted to find out if anyone had the desire or the expertise. And we do have someone that's very familiar. We're fortunate, I would say, we have someone that's very familiar with the FEMA process, has been very successful, works for us part-time, also works in other communities, has been really effective in working in there. So to the extent that we needed to on this very temporary, short term, we did do that.
You also hired a recreation assistant.
That was posted out there, Carol, on the website and other places, yes. There was a responsive, I don't know how many responses, but there were multiple responses for that as well.
Just checking.
Okay, I got it, it's over. Jennifer
Municipal
Perkins.
service contract, please.
No problem. Jennifer Perkins?
That's me.
Sorry.
I was just
I don't know
saying
you're
thank you
Jennifer
for,
Perkins.
Mrs. Roberts doesn't exist.
Okay.
I just was gonna thank you for the polls before I saw that you put the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you
No
again.
problem. Claudette?
Claudette Garrido, 12 Cedar. I want to make something very clear. I am the person that contacted the media, not Doug. I am the person that will continue to contact the media. I already did tonight with this vote. I am appalled, absolutely appalled, by you thinking you can take away my constitutional rights. And I'm shocked that you think that that's okay.
You can say
And
whatever
my
you want on
attorneys
Facebook.
are ready and raring to go. I will not put any disclaimer after my name ever for anything. And I volunteer for things. I am appalled that you guys think this is okay. In my 61 years of life, I have never, ever been shocked like I am tonight. I am appalled. But the papers already have it. And I will continue to do it. And I will continue to be the contact. And if I don't like something, I will speak out.
Who said that was bad to call the newspaper?
Who said you couldn't comment?
Well, Rebecca was blaming Doug for
Well,
reaching
Doug
out.
reached out to us via the email where he forwarded all our personal emails.
I forwarded.
Well, that's all we got. He must have cut yours out, which is
I
fine.
didn't know it was my responsibility to communicate to.
I don't.
I don't think I did anything wrong.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Here,
Claudette,
everybody's
you
called.
can comment. Nobody's saying you can't comment.
Like, as a whole, like, if we're all a team here, then
We're not a team first, that's the problem, and that's a part of the lack of
We are
communication.
not a team.
We're not a
We are
team. So I'm
absolutely
offended
not.
by the use of the word team.
I don't know if it's
And there's a lot of media people that don't feel that what you guys are doing is correct.
And that's
A
their
lot of media people. It's on the
radios, it's gonna be on the radios, it's gonna be on the TVs.
Okay.
Because, you know, you hit the front page of the paper for something that a lot of people find offensive. You know, you may think it makes the town look bad, it does. It does. It reflects on all of you. That you are so afraid of opposition and so afraid of people speaking out against you, or for whatever reason.
Oh, I'm not afraid of that at all, I didn't say.
And I don't say that.
I'm afraid of our image overall when people read that site. I mean, quite frankly, but that's me.
Robert, I can't read the last name, I apologize. Robert, is there a Robert here that signed up? Melissa Peterson?
Melissa Peterson, 17 Bay Street. As I've been in the internet business since 1998, I can pretty much be an expert on social media and some of the clauses. The fact that you already have something in writing for your employees is redundant to this resolution. And the fact that you have a lack of definition or scope of what a volunteer is. Is it somebody that volunteered ever? Is it somebody that's volunteering for a board? Is it somebody that's volunteering for a committee? You purposely didn't define it so you could have an intimidation tactic that to have a broad reach over everything. Your definition of social media, of the Highlands Facebook page, or any other form of social media. The fact that you have a defined consequence. The fact that you put this above anything else and rush it through without any concept. You didn't even, can you please look at me, Becky, because you're the one who actually did this. And you have no idea how pissed off I am.
It's okay, you can be pissed off.
Because you don't have the decency to actually do anything the correct way. There are certain ways that you could have done to handle this a lot better. One of your employees came to you and basically said they read this, go check it out, find out if it's true or not. Number two, you actually had your own Facebook page and you could actually post out information on it. Not your personal one, a town one. A town one. How about that? Because if you embrace social media and you actually are the controllers of the information going out there, then you eliminate the information. You're not going to stop people from talking amongst themselves, talking amongst on Facebook, talking amongst any other form of social media. And this is basically ridiculous. So, and to give you conceptually, I post on social media for my work. There's nothing in the resolution that says that I can't post about personal finance without putting a disclosure on it because I'm a volunteer. That's utterly ridiculous. And I think that if I push that, it doesn't have merit and it would not stand up in court. And I'm willing to fight that fight. And if your family has a problem with it, 17 pages is great.
Oh yeah, because that's how we operate.
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah, that's how you operate. That's exactly.
Guys, next up, we're just adjourning the meeting, just so we're all know.
With you guys, it's all cyberbullying, that's the whole.
Is Jen also still there? Hang on, Chris Francie? Next is, we're out of here, guys. Okay.
Back to town business.
Yeah.
Community rating system update.
What we talked about. Tim, you want to update us on that, please?
Didn't want to know. I'll take care of that.
I'm going to push it to Dale, but one of the things too, and I preface this as part of the SRPR report that went into the state, we may be eligible for funds to put towards putting someone in place in addition to make that a defined task. That's not to steal his thunder, but that's one of the things as the SRPR report that we've identified as a definite need. So that's one point of it, and then I'll let Dale follow up with where we're at.
Chris, I've called DEP and FEMA, the two contacts, enough where they've pretty much told me, we'll let you know. I've been bombarded with emails, with documents, trying to undo what was wrong with the deficiencies they found before, trying to overcome them, and they're still holding that over our heads. I am going to a meeting tomorrow down in Neptune. It's a meeting that's being held. So I will be down there for that. And just everything that we do is just trying to at least get us into the dance, and then we could get points on top of that. Just trying to get them to let us into the show right now is a problem.
Are you going to be able to discuss at tomorrow's meeting the deficiencies that we can't fix the deficiencies, yet are they still going to hold that against us joining the program.
They have
It seems to me that's the basic.
exactly, they have a list of deficiencies from prior to my involvement.
You can't fix that.
Exactly. The best I can do is go back and request property owners to do something about them.
It's not gonna change the.
Exactly. So, I'm hoping that all of our good deeds now are overcoming the deficiencies that we had before. And they have said we are on the right track, we are doing the right things. They see a big improvement in the way we're handling things, but it's still hanging over our heads. So that's where we are now. I'm told we're closer, but it's not there yet.
May I ask what meeting?
Monmouth
Is this
County
okay.
has a community rating,
Fine, okay.
community rating group.
Mhm.
All of Monmouth County towns attend. I don't know about all.
Right, okay, I just wasn't sure if that's what you were referring to.
Yes,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I tried to attend it, but at this point you have to be a town representative, so. And then Ms. Iannucci is also interested, but we can observe, but that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Franklin.
And I would be going to, but I'm going to another watershed meeting.
Okay.
At this point, it's kind of criminal. I mean, we're 10 years trying to get into this program.
Yep.
We can't fix these 78 properties that we did bad way back when.
Correct.
There's gotta be some way
That's
past it.
20 years ago.
Right,
Right.
it has to
That's
be
20 years
something
ago.
20 years ago.
that we can
Right, the
do.
150 that we've done right
Right.
in the last 2 years.
And part of our problem is typically the CRS is managed by our OEM. And at this point,
I have a question about that.
and I don't know that our OEM is involved in any of this stuff.
Why isn't he? He should be somehow involved in this.
Well, the floodplain management,
It's not gonna be-
our town representative typically is the OEM.
I don't want to get into names and everything. because
I'm trying not to say
I
that.
understand.
He
That
lives on the
position,
street
we
near
would
water.
say, is involved in other towns, correct?
I'm sorry?
In other towns, OEM is involved.
No, it's an
So
NFIP
then in other
requirement.
towns, OEM is involved.
It's mandated.
It's
So the
mandated.
answer is yes, that's involved, right? So we'd like him to be involved in our town.
He should have been involved 10 years ago.
Again, we can't go back.
I mean, at this point, he should be driving the process. It's one of his, let me say it differently, it's one of the CRS requirements.
How long have you been doing it, at least, how long?
2 years.
2, and then before you was who? Was it Dale?
Well, that's me.
How could I forget?
Paul was before that. I had it for a quick year, and before that, Dave Gilson had it.
Dave Gilson, as the borough administrator?
Yeah, he was the floodplain administrator at the time.
Okay, so he had it for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, it was 6.
Mr. Mayor, the floodplain administrator, Dale, is different than the OEM.
Oh, I
The
understand.
OEM is the one
But I
that's
guess
supposed
in the past, Mr. Gilson had both, or I'm sorry, had the floodplain.
to have floodplain.
Right.
We've always had one
So he
OEM,
did.
all right, and it's a point, it's part of the OEM job within New Jersey to push the CRS.
Okay, so that's something we should obviously bring in, Mr. Hill, okay?
Absolutely.
Excuse me, Rita Jacoby?
Rita Jacoby from North Bay Avenue. On Friday, we had a band playing in Havana through the hours of 6 to 10. I received several calls from our neighbors, and a couple of our customers complained that Councilman Card was outside hiding near the dumpster, taking pictures of people walking in, I'm sure videotaping our music. I'd like to know, first of all, was he active there on the advice of mayor and council? And was this approved?
I'll answer the question for, excuse me, let me answer the question. I never near any dumpster, I never left my vehicle, and I was down there as a result of a citizen, registering a complaint. I went down there, I used the app meter, and police officers were on scene at the bar before I even arrived. So all I would do is stay in the peripheral, didn't do anything, didn't talk to anybody. So yes, I was down there. No, I was not videotaping, taking pictures, harassing, talking to anyone.
So we're all clear, we all got the complaint in, I know I was there also.
No, I
So,
understand
I'm
that,
just
no, I
making sure everybody
understand the police,
understands what
but
happened.
I wasn't there, we had several customers
Well,
come in and
I
complain
had
and several
a
phone
council
calls.
member accused me of videotaping, and it's furthest from the truth. So,
Honestly, when I come around the corner and the hands out like this,
Yeah,
your
'cause
phone,
they-
I don't know what you're doing, but I
Yeah.
just saw you there, so you're not in the dumpster.
Well, that's what I'm asking, that's why I asked the question, I didn't.
Guys,
It's not in the
come on.
dumpster, it's-
That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking the question, if it was on the advice of the, what was going on, because at this point, we're honestly feeling like a personal vendetta against Havana at
I
this
can
point.
tell you, I did not send Councilman Card down there.
No, but I think that I went down there because I got an email, and I happened to be the right time.
I just
I was coming around the
happened
jug handle coming home from work and saw the email.
I did not
Went down.
know I was
And then I
coming down.
spoke with Officer Dobbins.
I made the call.
And it is our responsibility as a council, if there's an issue in our community, if we're available, and to render assistance to, if there's an issue. From my understanding, it was rectified and everybody was happy. The sound level went down. So again, the officers, I think, did the right thing. You guys did the right thing, you turned it down. But
I was told after the fact, Mr. Redmond made the call, the officers went in, and other council people were there, that's when the wall.
Right, well, that's why
Told for the
I was not there, that's why I'm telling you.
Okay.
I received several phone calls from, people in the neighborhood, and they were saying that there's somebody outside. I guess when they saw you doing that, they were assuming that it was a picnic. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no,
That's why I wanted to, that's why I asked the question. I didn't make any, I
But
just
at
wanted
least
to know.
3 of us were there, not together as holding a meeting, but we're all there separately in our own vehicles.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to ask. that
What'll
question.
happen is if we're all around and someone makes a phone call or an email and we get it in the time of fashion, typically we'll go there, because if we start communicating back to each other, that's actually a violation.
Was the complaint about the loud music?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
oh, yeah, absolutely.
No, I understand it was loud. Okay,
And we all,
I
I
just-
think 3 of the 5 of us responded in person,
okay.
and I know Mr. Redmond made a phone call.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to verify what was going on and just double check.
No
Okay,
problem.
thank you.
I don't, is Carla here? She moved?
No, she's not.
She left.
She said,
Carolyn, are you on?
And it's too bad that Carla left, because I had 2 questions. And the
Okay.
first has to do with the website.
The website, okay. I don't
The
know.
websites, I should say.
Sites, okay. I don't know.
1997, HighlandsNJ.com, that's owned by Ken Braswell. Then there's 2008, HighlandsNJ.us. Tim Hill is the registrar and the administrator. And now there's HighlandsBorough.org, which is owned by Highlandsborough. Yay, because that's the way you're supposed to own websites as a municipality. And that's administered by Carolyn. Not you, Carolyn, Carolyn.
The other Carolyn, I don't know.
So we have all these 3 websites that some of them, well, I don't even know if HighlandsBorough.org is really all functional, but they all link to each other and they're back to each other, and who owns what and why does the town not own all of the websites that our information is posted on? Because I guess is my question.
I don't have that answer for you. I know that when I started out in 2005, we didn't have .org, I believe. We had the one that went through.
You had .com.
Correct, and that went through
That
an
was from the
established
first website.
bid website that was made in a
It was
cooperation with
already
the
set.
town and the bid. And it just made sense to put our emails through there. The other, I don't know why that happened. The evolution was so we were breaking away, as we have brought up many times at this meeting, that .org is our own website and our own email and everything else. I don't know how the other things went. I don't remember, to be honest, it's been a long time.
Okay, I was just confused.
I don't have it,
because
sorry, I
I'm
don't have
looking,
the
I was like, wait, there's more island sites. There's
But
only
you are
7
correct, it has
sites.
evolved over the years and I don't know.
It has changed, Carolyn. I don't have the answers, believe me, I've tried. But before I got involved,
Right.
all this had been set up with a
No, I understand.
former
this.
administrator. I'm not even sure
Three
how
of
far
them.
back it went.
As a former business owner and someone that is in business
Sure.
for 30 years, you never have a person own a site,
Or
an
you shouldn't.
entity's site. It should never be a person's name, ever. And a lot of the other townships around here, including Middletown, it's the owner of the Middletown.org is Township of Middletown.
Right.
And that email is townhall at whatever.
Right.
And I know a
It's
lot
never
of
a
that,
person's name.
right, I know a lot of that came about was when the conversations came about the documents on a website somebody else owned.
Right.
And who owned those documents.
Right, but I'm just saying, yay, that the HighlandsBorough.org is owned by the town of Highlands.
Absolutely, sure.
So, way to go. The other is kind of, I just have to say something on it, about this Facebook resolution. So to go into that same spirit of that letter of that law, are we going to have a coffee shop and a Katz's gossip resolution? Because that's pretty much what this is. People gossip on Facebook. And what's the difference between someone gossiping at Katz's and saying, Joe Schmo's gonna be fired? Oh, I just heard at Katz's that I'm gonna be fired. Well, first off, if this person worked for me, and said, you heard on Facebook you're gonna get fired, I'm gonna fire you for saying that because you're that stupid. Because how could anyone ever think that the gossip mongers that are on any social media website, they go off into all of these crazy things, to honestly believe that you're gonna be fired from what you hear on a Facebook page, you should be slapped around the lip. So, yes, it's a tongue-in-cheek question, but it goes by the same exact mode. What's the difference if I'm standing on a soapbox in Huddy Park and spouting out all these things? Do I still have to disclaim that I'm saying all this stuff, but I have to disclaim I'm a member of the newsletter committee?
Okay.
Do you see my point?
I understand what you're saying. Barbara Iannucci?
Okay, Barbara Iannucci, 28 Dewsbury Avenue. R14, whatever number it was.
220?
220. I am just as blown away as Claudette was, Melissa, everyone that I have been speaking with. I am ashamed to be in a town that would even entertain any topic like this as a law. It's unbelievable to me. I mean, last I checked, we're in the United States of America, and I'm really totally blown away that you would consider this as important, and you and Mr. Redmond, because you all voted yes. I mean, you go back to 1943, there's the West Virginia versus Barnett. They say if there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or force citizens to confess by word. Another First Amendment ruling, 1964, New York Times against Sullivan by Justice William Brennan. The First Amendment provides that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, and wide open. Highlands has just gone back to the McCarthyism days of the 50s, and I am upset. And I've done research on municipal policies for social media. Every one of them pertain to officials and employees only. The policies did not carry over to volunteers. The municipal policies pertain to town-owned sites, not public social media. So as a result of that, I, Barbara Iannucci, hereby resign, effective immediately, my positions as a volunteer appointee, as a member of the Environmental Commission, and the FEMA Long-Term Advisory, which has only met once. My resignation is a direct result of Highlands passing R 14-220, enforcing terms on how, as a volunteer, I can comment on a non-official page found on a public social media. R 14-220 is unconstitutional and a violation of the rights protected by the First Amendment and free speech. Effective immediately. I am disgusted with how this governorship operates. You won't stop. I will be a watchdog.
Okay.
I will attend every meeting, but I will not put a disclaimer on social media.
Okay. Thank you. Gloria and
Okay, to a positive note for Highlands and for the children of this town. The Highlands PTO, the Highlands Elementary School here right now, would like me to announce that they are having a Halloween trunk or treat here Friday night on the 24th. They are looking for people to come up with their trunks and candy. You have to call ahead of time to have pre-approval to do this. So if you're not going to be home on Halloween, they suggest that the police come up and you can do this and put your candy out of your trunk and enjoy the children that way. That's the first one. Second of all, our Highlands Rec Department will be having a costume contest and a magic show, okay? We do not have our rec program building, but we are having something for the children. It will be at Henry Hudson, so it's rain or shine. It's on Sunday, October 26th. So if you'd like to bring your children or just come participate yourself, you're more than welcome to come up to the cafeteria. Promptly 1 o'clock. Show will be at 1:30. There'll be candy, popcorn, and so forth. So please spread the word about that. Lastly, my Girl Scout troops from this area will be having a Veterans Day service, okay, on Tuesday, November 11th at 7:30 PM,
Which is Veterans Day, correct?
which is Veterans Day, at Veterans Park on Bay Avenue in Highlands. I would encourage everyone to please come out, show your support for the veterans that have served, are serving, okay, that are overseas right now. Come out and enjoy the time to speak to some of them and be a part of this program. It will be very short and sweet, so it will be late at evening, 7:30, but that was because a lot of people had to work, okay? So also, if you know of anyone that would like to participate, please let me know, or if you know of a veteran that would like me to get there or need to ride there, let us know that as well.
And what time is it starting again?
7:30 PM.
Perfect.
And the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts will both be there.
Tim, when is the costume and all that? That is this, that's this Friday night, that's all this
That's
Friday.
the 26th.
I apologize, Sunday.
Yeah.
Friday night is up here,
Yeah,
Friday
what-
is here, Sunday is the Highlands Rec program.
right.
Okay.
With all the groups working together, they tried to spread it out so they're not conflicting. So I applaud everybody for getting together to do that.
Because
So we'll make it
Saturday-
Halloween weekend
There you go.
and trick or treat.
Right.
Festival.
Saturday is Atlantic Highlands Fair parade, they still are having theirs as well, and Willow Trees is having their. trunk
This
parade
Saturday?
That Saturday. So
So
Friday,
we
Saturday,
tried to
Sunday,
stay-
you can be filling your entire weekend.
Okay, thank you. I'll motion to adjourn.
All right.
Have a great night, everybody.